Good morning, Montana exporters. Welcome to our Go Global webinar today on website localization for Montana exporters. We're absolutely delighted to be here today to talk about the international online world and how exporters can use tools to boost their sales and increase their brand recognition. So my name is Susanna Hardy, and I'm presenting today together with Angie and Jared. Let me introduce them all to you. But before we get there, just a couple of quick things on housekeeping. So this is the Go Global webinar is part of a series of webinars, and there's a lot of information for you if you'd want it that we'd be very happy to help you with. What you can expect. This webinar is going to be about 45 minutes long, but I have left some time at the end for questions. And so we would really encourage you to put your questions into the question box or the chat box that should be on the right-hand side of your screen. It says questions or chat. Put them in there and we'll get to them at the end. There are 3 polls during the webinar as well. These are moments when I'm going to stop talking at last and ask you to click on some of the answers on the screen that you have. It allows us really to focus more on what you want to, what your concerns are for exporting. I'm going to give 3 handouts as well about markets that we think interest you. And finally, there is a recording and a slide deck, which we will send to everybody who registered for this. I've just noticed a typo. It says promote your business online in China is our next webinar. That was yesterday. Apologies for that. I didn't update my slide. I'm sorry. The next webinar we have is on the 28th of November, and it's about e-commerce, international e-commerce. So there you go. So sit back and enjoy. We hope that you find the webinar useful. We've worked on it to try and really scope it towards what we believe are Montana exporters' concerns, and also how best to present tools that could help you drive up your business. So here are we. As I said, my name is Susanna Hardy. I'm the Chief Content Officer at IBT Online. And that basically means that I am responsible for a lot of these webinars, but also for a lot of content creation for our clients. Samantha Sofici is here in the US. She's actually based in Florida. This is the polar opposite of Montana. She's actually not with us today because she's got a stomach bug. Poor old Samantha. So I've asked Jared to be here instead. This is very much last minute, so I haven't been able to change his photo. But Jared is based in the United States as well, and he's also one of our online business development managers. Jared is an extremely international and focused person on the international world and on the online world. So someone who can answer a lot of your questions and can really help you when you're looking for solutions that involve online tools. And then Angela Young, I'm sure many of you already know her as the International Trade Manager for Montana, and we're absolutely delighted to be able to be here with her. I will let Angie introduce herself a little bit later. First, also 2 seconds on who we are as a company. IBT Online, IBT stands for International Business and Technology Online. And we are 100% focused on small and mid-sized companies who export and on delivering tools to help them export. So we're a private company, we're a US company, although we have offices in Europe, and I'm sitting in Europe as well at the moment. But we're a US company. We have state programs. We have just rolling out now a state program with the state of Montana, and it's really to help these companies really drive forward business and drive forward their exports on that. We are, as I said, are focused on small, mid-sized companies, and basically with online tools to help them build websites and manage websites and their international online presence. So basically what we're going to be talking about here is ExportMontana. Why, helping exporters, that's going to be Angie. Then we're going to talk about why do exporters need international websites? You know, why do we think it's important that you have these things? Then a little bit about website localization. What is it? How does it work? And then finally about the Montana Online Global Program, which we're now launching to help Montana exporters. So with that, we're now going to talk about ExportMontana, helping exporters. And Angie, do you want to say a few words?
Thank you, Susanna, and thanks everyone for joining us. We are so excited to be partnering with IBT on this program. As you know, ExportMontana is our sole mission is to help Montana exporters start to sell outside the U.S. and continue to expand and be more successful because we know that as you increase your sales, you're going to hire more employees and Montana's economy is going to get better and better. I think is there another slide there?
There is. There is this one on the programs, on the STEP grant programs.
Yes. So as most of you know, I'm sure, Montana has applied for and received funding from the Small Business Administration for our STEP grant, State Trade Expansion Program. And this program provides 50% reimbursement for all of those expenses you see listed there, exhibiting at international shows, getting your marketing materials translated, working with the U.S. Commercial Service, international compliance testing. We also provide a travel stipend for when you travel internationally for trade shows and other meetings. And then lastly, our Montana Online Global Program that Susanna's going to kind of tell us a little bit more about. And then if you are having any technical assistance issues like NAFTA certifications, international pricing, which markets should I go to, our team can help with that as well.
Fantastic. I think Montana exporters have a tremendous range of resources at their disposal. And I have to say, Montana is one of the very innovative states to be rolling out this online program as well. So we're delighted to be able to be working with you. So, there's one more then about the STEP grant funded as well. And you've sort of mentioned this already. So I just want to take this opportunity of running the first poll, if that's okay. So get your fingers, please, on the mouse, and you should see a poll open up on your screen. We wanted to know, has your company used Montana's facilities and the resources on hand? And I think most of you, you know what? There's a few of you who have not yet used it but are thinking about it. But the majority of people attending this webinar have used it on a regular basis, and some of you have even successfully over many, many years, which is great to hear. Great to hear that. Okay, and with that, let's roll out on this webinar and talk more about why do exporters need international websites? Why do we bother with all this? And yes, that is chocolate chip cookies that you see in front of you. I thought, given that it's probably about time to have a coffee in Montana, given that you're on mountain time, you're all probably already saying, right, what is this webinar I'm going to sit through? I would tempt you with some chocolate chip cookies. I wanted you to go through the following slides very quickly and tell me in the end which chocolate chip cookie you would most likely buy. Would you, for example, buy Confiserie, Schokoladegebäck, all priced in euros? Some of these are interesting, lovely, lovely chocolate biscuits. You can really have some fantastic, they're delicious, absolutely, but can I understand it? No. Okay, Bonne Maman, some of my personal favorites, really delicious. Lots of chocolates. Again, it's all in French. I'm not sure what's in it. These ones here, they don't look chocolate to me. But we have several people who work on our Chinese markets, and they assure me that these are really good biscuits. 1688 is an e-commerce platform, mainly B2B. So I don't know what these chocolates are doing, biscuits are doing here. But anyway, there they are. If those tempt you for 14.20 RMBs, this one confused me for quite a long time. I just could not understand how a chocolate biscuit could cost $107. And then someone pointed out to me that it's pesos. I'm sitting in the UK at the moment. Now, I would not look for cookies. I would look for biscuits because I'm in the UK. Now, you might not look for biscuits, and then you'd miss out on these Fortnum & Mason biscuits. Anyway, which of those websites would you buy a cookie from? And I've included, guess what, cookies from Mrs. Fields in American dollars. So which ones? I mean, the world is a competitive place. If you're looking for someone who wants to buy, if you want people to buy your chocolate biscuits or your products, then you have to make sure that you're presenting what they want, when they want, how they want. And why is this? Why has the world changed in this way? Why has it become more complicated? I guess the simple answer is that the world is online. Now we all spend a lot of our time, and I'm sure you as business people all spend a lot of your time online already. But it's worth remembering that, in fact, the vast majority of people online are outside the United States. There are countries that are more plugged in, that spend more time online, that have a deeper penetration rate than the United States. And a lot of those are very big export markets that you want to see. There are over 4 billion people in the world currently online, and that means on a daily basis. What are they doing online? In essence, what they're doing online is they're communicating. What's happened to my website here? Here we go. Basically, what they're doing is they're communicating. They're communicating with each other about companies, about things that interest them. So out of those 4 billion that are online, 3 billion are talking and using social media on a daily basis. And I guess to sum that up in a different way, I quite like this graph. It's a very simple one, but it says on the left-hand side, you used to have this sort of bilateral, binomial relationship between the company and a customer, between the company and a partner. You probably wouldn't have a direct relationship with your competitor, but you knew there was a one-on-one on each case. The world now is much more complicated in that sense, and you'll notice that it is customer-centric. The internet has made it customer-centric, and therefore your business, especially internationally, has to be customer-centric rather than company-centric. And as a company, your objective, or certainly in terms of marketing and sales, is to try and influence those arrows that you see on the right-hand side in a positive way, so that customer to customer are saying great things about you as a company, whether that's in Japan or in New Zealand. They are talking about you in a positive way because you are online influencing how they see you, how they talk about you. This is obviously true, I think, for your domestic market, and I'm sure you all know this for your domestic market. But for us, sitting on the international side, we think that these tools like websites, localized websites and things like that are even more important, and this is even truer when you start to look internationally. Let's go to the next one. This just in terms of a summary. We think that exporters need international websites because obviously the world is online. They enable you to be found by your target markets and to be understood, and then to do business with those target markets. And this is sort of talking our book since we deal in the international world. But for us, if your clients in Montana and in neighboring states, their existing clients, your domestic clients, how often do they go on your website? They already know you. They probably don't go on your website that often. They know you already. They have trust in you. They are repeat buyers. They come back again. It's when you need new clients. It's when you need lead generation, when you need to build a brand and have the trust that is so important for the buying process. That's when a website, a localized website, becomes so important. And that's why we think having localized websites for your global markets is actually more important even than having them for your domestic market. Right. So what do we mean by localized websites? What is a localized website? What is she even talking about? Well, the best way I have of explaining a localized website is to go back to basics. And the basics are really search engines and how search engines work. Google is a global company. It has a vast market share in most countries, but Not all Googles are the same. Google in the UK, it's in English, but it's very different from Google in the United States. And that is because that diagram I showed you earlier, where the customer is at the center, search engines take the searcher, their customer, at the center. So they are responding to what their searchers, what their customers want to see, not what you, the company, want to show. So basically, there are 190, well, Google's present in 192 countries. They have 192 different Googles. Okay, it's obvious that Google in Argentina is going to be in Spanish, but Google Canada is different from Google United States, because a Canadian searcher will search differently, use different words, have different priorities than someone in the United States. And Google recognizes that and puts the searcher at the center. So a search engine is market specific and client focused. And we'll get back to that later. Just more about search engines. I asked Samantha to just show me what if I tap red shoes in Florida, what does it look like on her google.com? And on the left-hand side, that's what you see, red shoes in Florida. And I'm sitting in London and I tap in red shoes and I get very different things. I get different stores. I even get Zalando, which is actually a German company. I get very different results. And that's for something totally banal, like red shoes. So you can imagine if once you start getting specific, like in questions, like where do I find the best distributor? Where do I find the best this? You get very different answers for that. Google is not the only search engine in the world, but it is the dominant search engine. I have attached here on the right-hand side the market share of Google. It has 75% market share across the world. In Europe, it is above 90% market share in almost all European countries. Same thing for South America. But this is not true for the rest of the world. The two big exceptions is Russia, which has Yandex, the Russian search engine, and Baidu for China. And Baidu has, Google has about a 2% market share in China. It's totally irrelevant in China. And Baidu, in fact, is increasingly encroaching into Southeast Asia and India. So there's quite a bit of a turf battle going on there. These search engines all perform the same function and have the same overriding objective of having their searcher at the center, but they all function very differently. So again, part of the equation of looking at your websites, your localized websites and your websites for different countries is which search engine and where it's going to be. Here's an example also about more search engines but also about social media. Search engines are also, it's very important in terms of what are called keywords. And you need to do something called keyword research in all of these markets to make sure you're using the right term. So rather than give you an example always about English and UK, English and American English, I thought we'd give you a very real example. This comes from a client of ours. We were very struck. He's in the train business. He makes things for trains. And he came to us saying, right, I've been doing this social media for a while. It's not working. Help me. And we took one look at it and said, oh, you're not using the right words. He was really targeting the Brazilian market, but he was using the wrong term. 95% of people in Brazil search for the word trem. 98% of people in Portugal search for the word comboio. So different Googles, different keywords, different ad campaigns, same language. It is market specific and client focused. And that's what your websites and your social media have to be too. So as a whole, this is very much sort of grouping everything on one slide. Website localization contains the following 10 steps or 10 attributes that I've tried to group together on this one slide. Language happens to be one of them. You say, oh, okay, why don't I just stick I want to do more in Mexico. So I'll just stick a Mexican or a Spanish page on my domestic website. It just doesn't work. You might get a few Spanish-speaking people around about Montana, but it's going to be very hard to reach into Mexico because the search engine in Mexico will not recognize you as being relevant to that market. You need to have the right domain name. You need to have the right design, totally adapted in those keywords to the local language, not just translated, but optimized for the search engines. You need to host locally. That means that you need to host your website in that local area. That's really important. And what's increasingly important, you've got to have the right regulatory requirements. Otherwise, you are banned, or a great big banner comes up saying, warning, insecure site. So there's a lot of things that go into making a localized website correctly. And that's about where I want to do another poll. And here you go. We're going to launch another poll. And this one says, do you have localized websites already? Do you have localized websites for your export markets? Do you have them in a few export markets, for all of your export markets? Are you thinking about it? Is it something you're thinking about doing at all? Do you have them at all? The vast majority of you are saying basically they're thinking about it, that you're interested in it. But a good lot of you are saying that you have it for a couple of your export markets already, which is fantastic. Well done. I'm very happy to see that you already have it for some of your markets. Okay, now that basically sums up what is a localized website. Now we're going to talk just very briefly about some aspects of social media. We said, well, what is everyone doing online? Everyone's using social media. This is a map that shows you basically Facebook, and then the spread of Facebook throughout the world, and then where it is in Russia and in China. You can see that China has its own environment. Russia has its own environment. This is probably a good time to highlight our handouts. Again, on the right-hand side of your screen, you're going to see a little button. There should be a little gray button that says Handouts 3 out of 5. And I've included a handout of Canada, China, and Mexico because we thought that those were markets that seemed to be of interest to quite a few of the Montana exporters that we've been talking to and that we have had some interaction with. We have infographics on other markets and information on other markets, but we thought we'd give you a tester with those 3. So if you can click on it, you can download the infographic for the Canada online environment, the Chinese online environment, and Mexico's online environment on your handouts. If there's a snag in that and you can't seem to grasp it or whatever, don't worry. Come back to us later and I'll send it to you by email. But there you go. You should be able to get a hold of those handouts as well. Let's dive down a little bit about the social media because that's important. Once you have your website, there's one of the things that one wants to do with a website is use it and look at the various things that you can do. YouTube is a fantastic platform. You should be using it on your domestic website anyway. It's a great way. It's growing increasingly. The thing that I want to show you about most, however, first of all, it's the second most visited website globally, and 80% of the views are outside the USA. So if you're an exporter, it is a fantastic tool. If you've got something already on your domestic website, we can easily repurpose that, put some subtitles in, put it on your other websites, in your localized websites, and repurpose it. It's a really great way of reaching out and of getting your message across in a succinct way. So use YouTube. The only market, well, there's a couple of markets where it really doesn't work. The biggest one being China, where it's banned. You can't use YouTube. WeChat. WeChat is one fantastic one for China. It's basically like a proxy for the internet, for online businesses and for the internet in China. WeChat it's a social media app, but it's very different from Facebook. It hit over 1 billion users as of March 2018. And now with the latest Singles Day, the last weekend, it's really taken another big step up again. It does everything. It's like Facebook plus Uber plus your wallet plus Skype plus WhatsApp all rolled into one thing. It invades your life online and offline. It pays your bills, order your taxi. You can date. You can order a wedding on WeChat. And if you're looking for the Chinese market, your goal is to have an official account on WeChat. But it's a very different environment from Facebook. Facebook is the other, the huge one out there in the market. It is an absolutely global player, and just like those search engines, just like YouTube, it's available in over 100 languages. I don't know if I said earlier, YouTube is available in over 80 languages. Facebook is market-specific, client-focused. So they have focused in and said, we want the people in India to use Facebook. So we're going to make it specific to India. We're going to make it really great for someone in, Mumbai to use Facebook. Japan, we want people in Japan to use Facebook. So we're going to make it in Japanese. So it's a really a fantastic tool for exporters to use on a localized website. You can't just have a social media platform without, a strategy, just using that Facebook ads or whatever in Japanese without it bouncing back to somewhere. Otherwise, your clients are going to get very frustrated. So you need to have a website as a platform, as a springboard to then use to interact with your local market. This brings us to our third poll, and you'll be glad to see it's our last poll. And it's basically, do you actively use social media and marketing for your export markets? And for us, we're already hoping that you use them domestically, and I can see that the vast majority of you use it domestically already, which is great. It's a great start. I'm happy to see that you're using it domestically. There are a few of you out there who are really already pushing and going internationally, which is also very, very encouraging to see. Thank you very much. That closes our poll. As I said, about 2/3 of you now are using it domestically. The rest are using it internationally as well. So well done there. So those are the some of the top social media applications that we wanted to highlight to you, just to highlight. And we, if you want to dive in further, we're happy to do so at a later date. Using YouTube, WeChat, Facebook will get you around for most markets. We wanted then to talk about some of the major players, and I want to highlight these brands. These brands are global brands. How do those unicorns do it? How do those companies go so fast internationally? At its core, really the reason they've been able to go so quick is because they had the internet at the core, at their base level, at their DNA when they were started. At their very start, they said, we understand that that websites have to be localized. We understand that we can't just have a US website. Apple, for example, has over 130 international websites just for Apple. They have more for iPad and iPhone and all the other products, watches and so on. Airbnb, Uber, same thing. These are all companies that have leveraged the web and have localized websites, so that me sitting in Timbuktu, I can find an Apple, not just an Apple store, but an Apple online to help me and get my, so I know the brand and I know what I'm doing. And our mission really is, or our conviction is that we can use tools today for the mid-cap companies as well. That the web has moved on from when these companies started. We can now use web tools and leverage them for small to mid-sized companies and get a fantastic return to allow them to increase their brand, their global presence and their global footprint. So that's sort of what we're talking about here today. We wanted then to say, give you some case studies, some experiences of ours, some best practices. We would really recommend that you go onto our website. If you look at, there's a lot of testimonials. These are very short little videos of 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes from companies. And we hope that, by looking through a few of them, you'll find a company that resembles you and says, hey, that's similar problems to me, similar things to me. How did they do it? And these are all the company people talking, not us. But I think what's interesting for us is, at its core, our clients have all sort of come to us at some point saying, we need to build a global brand. And the sort of we've highlighted here the 4 key criteria that they've used, or the motivations they've used to get a localized website. They've said, oh, I need to generate more leads in Argentina. I need to have real credibility in that Japan market. I need to make sure that my products are seen to be relevant in Brazil, or I need to find distributors in Vietnam, and all of those are sort of motivators that have made them go and say, I will get a localized website in order to do those things, in order to achieve those things, in order to build global brand in the end. So please do go on our website and see if you can find a company that says, oh, this is very similar to us. This is, this speaks to me more. But if I drill down in just a couple of them, Bulman Products, they're a U.S. company. They're owned by management. They don't make very high-tech products, but they make very reliable products. They make basically paper cutters, but so that means that they're used for lots of different industry verticals: schools, industrial packaging, food processing, lots of different things. It means they have to have multiple distributors in markets. So they very often have 3, 4, 5 distributors in each market. And they originally came to us to say, well, it's not a big growth business, but we need to be front of mind when it does come to shop for our business. When the school supply shops, they need to think of us. And we want our website to be able to attract new distributors, because we're continuously looking for new distributors. So and Europe's our most important market. So we built them first, the German and UK websites, and that actually had a really good success. They were able to pull in a lot more distributors, especially in Germany, and had a really was able to really leverage that. And the German distributors in particular took that on board and have used the websites very effectively. Bulman have since added lots of other websites. Every year they add another 2 or 3 to their websites. So they now have, it's interesting, they now have several English language websites. UK, Australia is a different website, because the Australians want to find relevance to their market, and it's different to the UK market. So this is an example of a company who has basically said, I want these websites there to be used by my local distributors, but I own them, and that's the important thing here. It was very important also for this company to maintain a view on the end client. So they didn't want their distributor getting all the databases. This allows them to keep the databases, to have the view on the end client, and to really build a global brand and build value in that brand for an industry which is hard to identify the brand for that. So that's one example. And again, they've then launched out into quite a lot of social media. They've since starting their websites on the Online Global program for them, they've now branched out into social media across several markets. But we create the content, we drive forward their business and drive forward their reporting, and it's working pretty well for them. I'm just giving you a screenshot of what they're doing in the UK at the moment. ASG, Avionics Support Group, is a very different company. They are a tech company. They make very techy things. It's hard to understand sometimes what they do. In fact, it was so hard for them that they said, we need a website because we might have really good agents, but the agents aren't necessarily strong engineers. They're guys who network well, who can provide after-sales support, who speak the language. They're in-market partners, but they're not necessarily very techy. So we need a website here which can back up our in-market partners. And we're going to start with our hardest markets, that's China. And they started, the in-market partner thought it was fantastic and managed to clinch their biggest deal ever within 3 months of launching. So that was a fantastic testimonial really to them. And again, you can, if you want to hear more about that, go on our website and you'll see Hugo, the CEO, talking about that and what he did and how the distributor liked it. Excuse me. So that's about sort of a return on investment as well for these websites. Again, he started off with 2 markets, just China and Mexico, I think. He then branched out into Japan and Brazil, and now they're doing Russia and Saudi Arabia, and they're thinking about redoing their U.S. market as well. So they're really sort of taking a firm grasp of their online presence. Ocean Optics is a slightly larger company. They again, a U.S. company, and they really felt that there were 2 markets in particular which were very plugged in. They're very, very internet-specific markets, and they were just, these should have been very strong markets for this company. They were just not getting the traction. They were just not getting the brand recognition that they should get, given what they do. So the websites allowed them to punch above their weight, to really be front of mind, to really be found in these markets and engage in these markets. And Mexico and Brazil especially are markets that respond very, very well to online presence. They're very reactive markets. You put something out there and you get lots of feedback from Mexico and Brazil. So that's been a great success and a very interesting case for them to learn how to use websites in markets where their sales presence wasn't strong enough, they felt. This company here, I just wanted to put up that one because it's really it's a case of e-commerce, and e-commerce in Brazil is one of the toughest. It's very bureaucratic and lengthy and slow and difficult, but very reactive as well. Really worth doing if you get it right. And this is a company who wanted knew they had to get into the Brazil e-commerce market, and the Localized website cut through a lot of the issues and problems they were having. It cut through a lot of the red tape, a lot of the issues they were having there with getting on board for e-commerce, getting on board with local partners, getting e-commerce platforms. In fact, they took it all out, built the Localized website, and e-commerce enabled it, and that allowed them just to sort of circumvent a lot of the chaos of otherwise e-commerce in Brazil. So that's just an example of also using websites for very specific markets, for specific functions. So there, that's sort of website localization. It's online marketing and some examples in a very rapid space of time. I'm now going to just finish off with this program, which is really for the Montana exporters. This is really for you. And it's a very innovative program. We're absolutely delighted that Montana has said yes to this. It's something I think that just a few other states are doing, and Montana seems to be behind it and saying this is what is needed in 2018. We need to help our exporters get a global online presence. So, there's a lot of writing on this slide, but basically what we're saying here is sort of a recap of what we find helps exporters when they go online globally. It's all about being found and helping your distributors be found and helping your distributors be understood, and the whole process of buying in the trust and commitment that you need to sign deals and build a brand awareness and brand trust. So I'll let you read that at leisure. Getting on to the program itself. We've designed this program, again, there's way too much writing on this, but you will get a slide deck, and I will summarize it now. The first part of the program is Option A. Option A takes 3 months from start to finish, and it basically delivers 2 websites. You can choose which markets you want. You can choose any markets in the world. Pretty well. It doesn't have to be similar markets. You can choose, China and Mexico is the example I've given here. Any market in the world, we will deliver for you a website which is 12 pages long, which is 2,000 words long, fully localized, And remember those 10 steps we had in the localization process. So it means not just translated, but the keywords have been searched for. It's been optimized for the local search engine. It complies fully with regulation, and that includes the latest GDPR regulation in Europe, which is strenuous. It is fully secure, what's called an SSL security, and backed up on the cloud. We will teach you and give you a little bit of a training course in terms of analytics. We will give you the location, geolocation, and the hosting. And we'll, at the very top of it, we're going to buy the domain name for you or register it for you and then give it to you. So we're buying the domain name, handing you over a 12-page, fully operational, localized website, 2 of them in 2 markets that you choose for. So I don't know how many of you have done websites in the past and been involved in that. I don't know how many of you have even just done translation for a brochure for a trade show. But I can tell you that $12,000 is a very, very good deal for this. We're delighted as well that Montana are looking to complement some of that spend as well. Option B basically is more open-ended. It's basically, if you say, well, that's fine, but in fact, I only want one website, and it's got to be Japan, and it's got to be, it has to have e-commerce on it, and it's got to have a space for my distributor to upload things and secure. It's a whole different ballgame. It's got to be 40 pages long. In that case, what we'll do is we'll give you a very transparent cost system where it's basically about how many pages, how much, and so on, and just deliver the end product of whatever the specification is that you want in terms of either e-commerce or a specific website that you're looking for. So there's an option A, which is a very tailored option where you can say, I want 2 markets. Those 2 markets are ideal. Or option B, much more open-ended, and you tell us what you want, and then the budget reflects the time spent. So those are the 2 options. There's a lot of here's a link to the testimonials, as I said, on IBT.onl success stories. You'll see lots of them. This is a well-trodden path. This is not something new. I've said that Montana is very innovative in putting it forward for exporters, but this is not new in terms of mid-sized companies reaching out and saying, I want a website that functions properly in my export market. So there you go. That's sort of it. I guess next steps, contact us, and we would love to have any questions. Any concerns, any thoughts that you might have, and I can see actually that we've got a series of questions. Actually, I've talked a lot, so I'm going to hand over to Jared to answer some of the first questions. Jared, a question for you, Jared, is if you're buying it, who owns the website? So I guess he means if you're buying the URL, if you're buying the domain name and you're building it, who owns the website? Jared, that one's for you.
Yeah, that's a very good question, and the answer is that you as a company would own the website. So we do assist a lot of our clients in securing those URLs, especially in some of the international markets. It can be a bit tricky, so we do assist them in that process, but ultimately the website and the content on the website is owned by the company.
Right, thanks. That's very succinct. You own your website. Absolutely clear. Just looking at there's another question, which is, what is step 1? So where do I start, I guess is the question. What is step 1? Step 1 is decide which markets you want. Decide if you want, which are your 2 target markets if you're going for option A. And typically we find there are 2 ways of going about this. Our clients either come to us saying, we're really strong in those 2 export markets. We want to double down on them, boost them. We think we can do a lot more business there, build us websites in our 2 strongest markets. Alternatively, we'll have clients who come to us say, we're pretty good everywhere, but there's 2 markets that really interest us just to suss out. We think we're good at them, but let's just put up a website. It'll give us some market feel, some understanding. We can figure out whether we fit that market or not. It's really market research as well. So we'll either have markets for, the 2 markets, export markets will either be our strongest markets or the ones you want to test out. Angie, I don't know if you want to add something in terms of first steps. What would you tell an exporter for Montana in terms of the first steps for the online global program?
Well, I would say, Susanna, that your team has been incredibly helpful, and so I wouldn't hesitate to just encourage Montana exporters to just contact you guys directly, get started on the program, and then contact me for the grant application. But you can start with either one of us, and we'll refer you out to exactly the right people that you need. But either way works for me.
Thank you very much, Angie. That's very, very sweet of you to say. I have another question, and I'm going to hand this to Jared as well. It's about hosting. Why do you host internationally? What is that? Why do you have to host internationally?
Yeah, and that's another great question. And hosting things internationally or hosting things in market is very important for multiple reasons. It's just one step of the website localization process, but nonetheless a very important step. And it's really important for 2 reasons. One, hosting things locally, so in the export market or in the international market that you're in, allows you to be found easier within those international search engines. Search engines do tend to prioritize locally hosted websites before other websites. So it's very important to do it from an SEO or search engine optimization standpoint. And really the second reason is for user experience. So hosting things locally allows your website to load at a faster rate. So if you have videos on the website or downloadable content on the website, all of that can be accessed and downloaded faster than hosting things within the United States. So really for 2 reasons. One, for improved SEO functionality, and then the second reason being ease of use. Those are really the 2 important reasons for hosting a website locally.
Thanks, Jared. I have a question from Tibor, which is, would IBT translate or convert the existing content design? The answer is, of course. We are not into reinventing the wheel. If you've got, first of all, always stick to brand design. It's really important to make sure you're keeping your brand globally. Your colors, your brand, your images. Yes, you tweak them. Yes, you can change them for a local market, but there's no point in reinventing something if it works. That's for sure. So if you've got content on your existing website, which is great, then let's roll it out. We're not going to recreate content. It's it's about optimizing the content. So we would really be looking to find the right keywords. It's like my example about Comboio and Theyre. It's about finding the right keywords for the market to make sure that those exist in your content, or just dropping them into the existing content. So we're talking about tweaking things rather than rewriting things. Rewriting things is if you've got good content, keep it. Let's roll it out. Angie, I have another question for you, which is specific to the grant, and it just says, what grant is applicable and how much?
Good question. That is the STEP grant, and we reimburse 50% per market up to $3,000. That's the federally mandated limit that we can reimburse. So option 1 that is offered for the Montana Online Global Program is for 1 market, and it costs $6,000, and we can reimburse 50% of that, $3,000. If you choose to go with the 2 market route, which is the $12,000, we can reimburse $3,000 per market for the total of $6,000.
Perfect. Okay. And then I have another question here, which is, our distributors take care of all of our online social media. There's no real question. Our distributors manage all of our online social media. And I guess the question is that a good thing or not? We think that it's really important to have and own your online real estate, your online brand, especially in 2018 and beyond. I mean, the world is so online. If you have a new prospect anywhere, they're going to check you out. They're going to check out your website. And if they're living in Japan, they're going to go on to Google Japan and try and check out your website. They're going to have a hard time finding you in Montana. If you've got a Japanese website, which is owned, managed by you, working for you, then they can find you easily and work through that. And it works better. And we think it's more important that it's a real value. So why hand that to a distributor for free? I'm also not always convinced that distributors have all the toolkit necessary for website localization and online marketing. Some of them do, some of them don't. So I would just question that as well. So that's sort of I'm looking at the time, and I think we're sort of done in questions. Oh, well, there's another question just come in. To do this right, I also need a localized customer representative for sales and questions. Very good question. Yes and no. If you have a microsite, if you have just one site, if I go back to the example of ASG, even, let's go back to these examples up here. This guy, they have a local in-market partner, but they don't have social media with it, for example. These people, Bulman, they don't always have in-market distributor. Part of the reason why they have a website is to look for distributors. But they find that once they have a website that functions in that market, they start to attract distributors as well. So that's a really good thing to find distributors. But in terms of so if you're looking to get a distributor, it's a good way of doing it. Do you need to have an in-market partner? Not necessarily. If they're answering, it depends a little bit on the market. If let's say you go for the German market, if they ask you a question in German, one thing you can do is hand it to us, and we'll answer it for you. We'll help you with that. We manage, for example, the German websites, the Korean websites, the Chinese websites for all of these companies. And we employ Chinese, Koreans, Japanese, Germans, French, Spanish, and so on. It's like United Nations in us. So we can help you with any of these issues. If it's a short thing, Google Translate isn't bad. This is a good example of where Google Translate is actually a good thing to do. At least you'll get a good view of what they're trying to say in the question they're asking. So there are a lot of different solutions to this that we've found in terms of saying, if I don't have an in-market partner in that market, should I still get a website? Yes. It'll help you find an in-market partner, and two, it'll help you be found in that market. Once you start getting questions and responses in that market, it depends a bit which market it is. If it's China, you have to have an in-market partner. If it's Germany, no. If it's Mexico, no. So it really depends on which market. If you want, we'll do a breakout session, and I'm happy to go through some examples and talk that through with you by Skype or whatever, if you like. I think that was it for questions, and I think we've sort of run out of time. So I wanted to say happy exporting to Montana. Thank you so much for your time. We do have a very, very short survey, which is just going to help us tailor our services a bit more. And we would also hope that you do get in touch with us, that you reach out, and that'd be fantastic. We'd love to hear from you. And from Angie and the team, you will get a copy of the slide deck and the recording in your email. Thank you so much, Montana. Thank you so much, Angie, for arranging this for us. We've really appreciated it. Happy exporting. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Susanna.
Thank you, Angie. Thank you, Jared.